Question 1. Quality control measures reveal a dispatcher receiving a Priority 1 call regarding a suspicious individual observed loitering near a bank. The caller provides a general description of the individual and states they are walking towards Elm Street. The dispatcher needs to relay this information to responding units. Which of the following communication strategies best adheres to Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification standards for radio etiquette and clear communication? Option A. Dispatch to all units, Priority 1. Got a code 3 on a suspicious male, dark hoodie, looks like he's making a move towards Elm Street, be advised. Option B. Dispatch to all units, Priority 1. Suspicious individual reported near the bank, wearing dark clothing. Caller is concerned about their intentions. They are currently moving in the direction of Elm Street, over. Option C. Dispatch to all units, Priority 1. Suspicious person, dark clothes, going towards Elm Street. Caller said they are walking. Option D. Dispatch to all units, Priority 1. Suspicious person, male, dark clothing, heading towards Elm Street. Further details to follow. Correct answer is D. Dispatch to all units, Priority 1. Suspicious person, male, dark clothing, heading towards Elm Street. Further details to follow. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in law enforcement dispatch, maintaining clear and concise communication under pressure while adhering to strict protocols. The professional challenge lies in balancing the urgency of the situation with the need for accuracy and adherence to established radio etiquette. Miscommunication can lead to delayed response, incorrect resource allocation, or even endangerment of officers and the public. Careful judgment is required to select the most effective and compliant communication strategy. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes clarity, brevity, and the use of standardized terminology, all of which are fundamental to effective radio communication in law enforcement. This approach ensures that critical information is conveyed accurately and efficiently, minimizing the risk of misunderstanding. Adherence to established protocols, such as using clear language and avoiding jargon where possible, directly supports the goals of the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification, which emphasizes operational efficiency and safety through effective communication. An incorrect approach that uses excessive jargon or overly casual language fails to meet the standards of clear communication. This can lead to confusion for other dispatchers or responding officers who may not be familiar with specific terminology or who are distracted by the non-standard phrasing. Such a failure violates the spirit and letter of regulations, requiring precise and unambiguous communication in emergency services. Another incorrect approach that involves unnecessary chatter or personal remarks is a direct violation of radio discipline and etiquette. This wastes valuable airtime, can obscure critical transmissions, and demonstrates a lack of professionalism. Regulations governing radio use in law enforcement strictly prohibit such behavior to ensure that the communication channels remain open and clear for official business. A third incorrect approach that involves incomplete or ambiguous information is equally detrimental. Dispatchers have a responsibility to relay all pertinent details accurately. Failing to do so, perhaps by omitting a crucial descriptor or location detail, directly compromises the safety and effectiveness of responding units. This represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure, as it can lead to incorrect dispatching decisions and potentially dangerous outcomes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a rapid assessment of the information received, an understanding of the urgency, and a commitment to applying established communication protocols. Dispatchers must prioritize conveying essential information accurately and concisely, using plain language where appropriate and standardized codes or terminology when necessary and understood by all parties. They must constantly be aware of the impact of their transmissions on the overall operational picture and the safety of those involved. Question 2. Operational review demonstrates that a text to 911 message is received stating only "Help me, I'm scared." What is the most appropriate immediate action for a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II to take, adhering strictly to text to 911 regulatory framework and guidelines? Option A. Respond to the text message with a request for the sender to confirm their exact location and the nature of the emergency. Option B. Respond to the text message with a generic acknowledgement and wait for further communication from the sender. Option C. Immediately dispatch emergency services to the last known cell tower location associated with the text message. Option D. Ignore the text message, assuming it is a prank or a non-emergency situation. The correct answer is C. Immediately dispatch emergency services to the last known cell tower location associated with the text message. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of emergency communication and the specific regulatory requirements governing text to 911 services. Dispatchers must balance the immediate need for information with the legal and procedural mandates designed to ensure accuracy, privacy, and effective response. The potential for misinterpretation, delayed response, or privacy breaches necessitates a rigorous adherence to established protocols. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes immediate verification of the sender's location and the nature of the emergency, while simultaneously adhering to established text to 911 protocols. This aligns with the fundamental principle of ensuring public safety by confirming the validity and urgency of the communication before taking further action. Regulatory frameworks for text to 911 typically mandate that dispatchers confirm location and the nature of the emergency as the primary steps to ensure an appropriate and timely response, preventing misallocation of resources and ensuring the safety of the caller and responders. This approach upholds the integrity of the emergency response system. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately dispatching emergency services based solely on the text message without any attempt to verify the sender's location or the legitimacy of the emergency. This violates regulatory requirements that mandate location confirmation for text to 911 calls, as it could lead to a response to an incorrect location, wasting valuable resources and potentially delaying assistance to a genuine emergency. It also fails to account for potential prank texts or false alarms, which could compromise public safety. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the text message entirely, assuming it is not a genuine emergency. This directly contravenes the regulatory obligation to treat all text to 911 messages as potential emergencies and to attempt to verify their validity. Ignoring such a message could result in a failure to provide assistance to someone in dire need, leading to severe consequences and a violation of the dispatcher's duty of care and regulatory mandates. A third incorrect approach is to respond to the text message with a generic, nonspecific query that does not actively seek to confirm location or the nature of the emergency. While acknowledging the message, this approach lacks the proactive verification required by text to 911 protocols. It fails to gather the critical information needed for an effective response and could lead to a prolonged exchange, delaying the dispatch of appropriate aid. This also risks violating privacy regulations if the dispatcher inadvertently requests information that is not immediately necessary for the emergency response. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the specific regulatory requirements for text to 911 services within their jurisdiction. This includes recognizing that every text message must be treated as a potential emergency until verified. The process should involve immediate attempts to confirm the caller's location and the nature of the emergency using established protocols. If verification is successful, dispatch appropriate resources. If verification is challenging, continue to attempt contact and gather information while adhering to privacy guidelines. If the message is clearly a prank or false alarm after reasonable verification attempts, follow established procedures for handling such incidents. This systematic approach ensures compliance, maximizes efficiency, and prioritizes public safety. Question 3. Market research demonstrates that effective emergency response hinges on precise communication and adherence to established procedures. A dispatcher receives a call reporting a potential disturbance at a residential address. The caller sounds agitated and is speaking rapidly, mentioning loud noises and people arguing. Which of the following actions best aligns with the law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification requirements for handling such a call? Option A. Immediately dispatching officers to the location based on the caller's initial description of loud noises and people arguing without further questioning. Option B. Focusing primarily on calming the agitated caller and offering reassurance, delaying the collection of specific incident details until the caller is less emotional. Option C. Following the standardized law enforcement dispatcher Roman II protocol for disturbances, systematically gathering specific details such as the nature of the disturbance, number of individuals involved, any visible weapons, and the caller's exact location and contact information before dispatching. Option D. Asking the caller to describe the loud noises in detail and the specific content of the arguments before initiating any dispatch procedures. The correct answer is A. Immediately dispatching officers to the location based on the caller's initial description of loud noises and people arguing without further questioning. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical need for accurate and timely information gathering and dissemination in a high-stress environment. The dispatcher must balance the urgency of the situation with the requirement to adhere to established protocols to ensure the safety of both the public and responding officers. Failure to follow standardized protocols can lead to miscommunication, delayed response, incorrect resource allocation, and potentially dangerous outcomes. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the systematic application of established law enforcement dispatcher Roman II protocols. This ensures that all necessary information is collected in a structured manner, leading to appropriate dispatch of resources and accurate situational awareness for responding units. Adherence to these protocols is mandated by the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification framework, which emphasizes consistency, accuracy, and efficiency in emergency communications. This systematic approach minimizes the risk of human error and ensures that critical details are not overlooked, thereby upholding the highest standards of public safety and officer safety. An incorrect approach that involves improvising or deviating from established protocols is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification requirements, which are designed to standardize emergency response and ensure a predictable, reliable communication system. Such deviation can lead to the omission of vital information, such as specific location details or suspect descriptions, resulting in delayed or misdirected responses. Ethically, improvising bypasses the established safeguards designed to protect all parties involved, demonstrating a lack of professional discipline and potentially jeopardizing lives. Another incorrect approach, such as prioritizing speed over thoroughness by asking only a few questions, is also professionally unacceptable. While speed is important in dispatch, it must be balanced with the collection of sufficient information to ensure an effective response. This approach fails to meet the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification standards for information gathering, which require a comprehensive understanding of the incident before dispatch. This can lead to responders arriving unprepared for the full scope of the situation, increasing their risk and potentially hindering the resolution of the incident. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on the caller's emotional state rather than the factual details of the incident, is also a regulatory and ethical failure. While empathy is a valuable trait for a dispatcher, the primary responsibility is to gather actionable intelligence. The Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification framework mandates that dispatchers collect specific, objective data to facilitate an effective response. Overemphasis on emotional support, to the detriment of critical information gathering, can delay the dispatch of necessary resources and compromise the safety of those involved. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a structured approach. First, actively listen to the caller to understand the core nature of the emergency. Second, immediately initiate the appropriate standardized protocol for the reported incident type. Third, systematically gather all required information as dictated by the protocol, asking clear and concise questions. Fourth, confirm critical details with the caller. Fifth, dispatch the appropriate resources based on the gathered information and protocol guidelines. Finally, maintain clear communication with responding units and the caller as the situation evolves, always adhering to established procedures. Question 4. Consider a scenario where a 911 call is received at a public safety answering point (SAP) that is identified as originating from a voice over Internet Protocol (VoIP) service. The SAP E911 system displays a general geographic area for the caller's location, but not a precise street address. According to the regulatory framework for Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification, which of the following actions best ensures compliance and effective emergency response? Option A. Immediately attempt to verbally confirm the caller's precise location and the nature of the emergency, while simultaneously initiating a dispatch to the general geographic area indicated by the E911 system, pending further information. Option B. Treat the call as a lower priority and wait for the caller to provide a definitive address. As VoIP location data is often unreliable. Option C. Rely solely on the general geographic area provided by the E911 system and dispatch emergency services to that location without further caller interaction, assuming the system is accurate. Option D. Inform the caller that their VoIP service does not provide accurate location data and advise them to call back from a landline if they require emergency assistance. The correct answer is A. Immediately attempt to verbally confirm the caller's precise location and the nature of the emergency, while simultaneously initiating a dispatch to the general geographic area indicated by the E911 system, pending further information. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the evolving nature of communication technology and the critical need for dispatchers to adhere to established protocols for emergency service access. The integration of Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP, into public safety answering points, SAP, introduces complexities regarding location accuracy and service reliability, which are paramount for effective emergency response. Dispatchers must possess a thorough understanding of these technologies and their regulatory implications to ensure public safety. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the established regulatory framework for emergency telecommunications, specifically the requirements for E911 services. This framework mandates that SAP be equipped to handle emergency calls from all types of telecommunication services, including VoIP, and to obtain accurate location information. Adhering to these regulations ensures that emergency services can be dispatched efficiently and effectively, regardless of the caller's technology. This aligns with the core mission of a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II, which is to facilitate the rapid and accurate deployment of emergency resources. An incorrect approach that relies solely on traditional landline protocols fails to acknowledge the widespread adoption of VoIP and the legal obligations to serve these users. This oversight can lead to delayed or misdirected emergency responses, directly contravening regulatory mandates designed to protect public safety. Another incorrect approach that assumes VoIP calls are inherently less reliable or accurate than landline calls without specific evidence or established protocols is also problematic. A VoIP can present unique challenges. Regulatory frameworks often outline specific technical requirements and fallback mechanisms to ensure its reliability for E911. Ignoring these established standards and making assumptions can lead to a failure to properly triage and respond to emergency calls. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes caller self-identification over system-generated location data for VoIP calls, without a clear understanding of the system's capabilities and limitations, risks compromising the speed and accuracy of dispatch. While caller self-identification is a valuable backup, it should not be the primary method when reliable system-based location data is available or when protocols dictate otherwise. A professional reasoning process for dispatchers in such situations should involve a continuous assessment of available technology, adherence to current regulatory guidelines, such as FCC rules and state-specific SAP operational standards, and the application of established protocol for handling emergency calls from various telecommunication services. This includes understanding the capabilities and limitations of the SAP E911 system, particularly concerning VoIP call handling and location accuracy. When faced with uncertainty, dispatchers should consult their supervisors or designated technical support personnel to ensure compliance and optimal response. Question 5. The investigation demonstrates that a critical telephony system alert indicated a potential unauthorized access attempt to a secure dispatch line during an active, high-profile criminal investigation. The alert provided a timestamp and a partial, uncorroborated source identifier. Given the sensitivity of the ongoing investigation and the potential for system compromise, what is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the law enforcement dispatcher Roman II? Option A. Immediately attempt to trace the partial source identifier using advanced network analysis tools to pinpoint the exact location of the alleged unauthorized access. Option B. Immediately initiate lockdown procedures for the dispatch center and alert all responding units to a potential security breach based solely on the system alert. Option C. Log the system alert, continue normal dispatch operations, and wait for further system diagnostics or confirmation from IT before taking any action. Option D. Log the system alert. Attempt to verify the partial source identifier through internal dispatch logs and cross-reference the timestamp with other system activities, and discreetly inform a supervisor of the anomaly. The correct answer is B. Immediately initiate lockdown procedures for the dispatch center and alert all responding units to a potential security breach based solely on the system alert. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the dispatcher to balance the immediate need for accurate information with the potential for system limitations and the critical nature of emergency calls. The dispatcher must quickly assess the reliability of incoming data, understand the capabilities and potential failure points of the telephony system, and prioritize actions to ensure public safety without compromising the integrity of the investigation or the dispatch process. The pressure of an ongoing investigation adds a layer of complexity, demanding discretion and adherence to protocol. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes verification and adherence to established protocols for handling potentially compromised information. Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification emphasizes the importance of maintaining accurate records and ensuring the integrity of communication systems. This approach acknowledges that while the telephony system provides valuable data, it is not infallible. Verifying the information through independent means, such as cross-referencing with other dispatch logs or directly contacting the reporting party if feasible and safe, aligns with the regulatory framework's emphasis on accuracy and reliability in dispatch operations. This proactive verification minimizes the risk of acting on false or misleading information, which could have severe consequences for public safety and the investigation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach fails to acknowledge the potential for system errors or manipulation. Relying solely on the raw data from the telephony system without verification, especially when anomalies are present, violates the principle of ensuring information accuracy. This could lead to misallocation of resources, incorrect suspect identification, or jeopardizing the investigation by acting on flawed intelligence. This approach disregards the dispatcher's responsibility to critically evaluate all incoming information, a core tenet of law enforcement dispatch. Another incorrect approach might involve immediately escalating the situation based on unverified data, potentially causing undue alarm or premature action. This bypasses the necessary due diligence required in law enforcement operations. The regulatory framework for dispatchers stresses the importance of a methodical and evidence-based response, not one driven by speculation or unconfirmed system outputs. A further incorrect approach could be to ignore the anomaly altogether, assuming it is a minor system glitch. This is professionally unacceptable, as it demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to recognize that even minor system discrepancies can have significant implications in a law enforcement context. The dispatcher has a duty to investigate any unusual system behavior that could impact operational effectiveness or compromise an investigation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making process that involves 1. Immediate recognition of anomalies in system data. 2. Critical evaluation of the potential causes of the anomaly, considering both system malfunction and potential external factors. 3. Adherence to established protocols for verifying information, which may include cross-referencing, seeking supervisor input, or independent confirmation. 4. Prioritizing actions based on the verified information and the urgency of the situation. And 5. Meticulous documentation of all observations, actions taken, and the rationale behind them. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with the highest standards of professional conduct and regulatory compliance. Question 6. Upon reviewing the primary radio dispatch console, you notice intermittent static and drop transmissions on a specific channel that is currently in use for an active pursuit. The system logs indicate a potential hardware anomaly, but the channel remains partially functional. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action to ensure both operational continuity and system integrity? Option A. Immediately isolate the affected channel to prevent further degradation. Initiate a documented diagnostic sequence as per agency protocol, and notify the technical support unit of the anomaly. Option B. Continue using the affected channel for the pursuit, assuming the issue is temporary and will resolve itself, while monitoring for further degradation. Option C. Attempt to manually reconfigure the radio console's software settings without consulting technical support to see if the issue can be resolved quickly. Option D. Immediately replace the radio console with a backup unit without performing any diagnostics or notifying technical support to ensure the pursuit is not interrupted. The correct answer is A. Immediately isolate the affected channel to prevent further degradation, initiate a documented diagnostic sequence as per agency protocol, and notify the technical support unit of the anomaly. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of maintaining reliable communication during an emergency. Dispatcher must balance the immediate need for information with the long-term implications of system integrity and data security. Failure to properly assess and address a communication system anomaly could lead to delayed response, compromised evidence, or unauthorized access to sensitive information, all of which have significant legal and operational ramifications for law enforcement. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes immediate, secure, and compliant troubleshooting. This involves isolating the suspected faulty equipment to prevent further disruption or data corruption, initiating a documented diagnostic process that adheres to established protocols, and immediately notifying the appropriate technical support personnel. This aligns with the law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification requirements by ensuring operational continuity, data integrity, and adherence to agency policies regarding communication system maintenance and incident reporting. The emphasis on documentation is crucial for accountability and future system improvements. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves continuing to use the potentially compromised system without immediate isolation or diagnostic steps. This poses a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the principle of maintaining system integrity, as the anomaly could worsen, leading to a complete communication failure during a critical incident. Furthermore, it risks data corruption or loss, which could have legal repercussions if that data is needed for investigations or court proceedings. It also demonstrates a lack of adherence to proactive system management and incident response protocols. Another incorrect approach is to immediately replace the equipment without proper diagnosis or consultation. This is a failure because it bypasses established troubleshooting procedures, potentially leading to unnecessary expenditure and downtime if the issue is minor or software-related. It also fails to document the problem and the resolution process, which is a critical component of system maintenance and compliance. This approach can also lead to the introduction of new issues if the replacement equipment is not properly configured or if the underlying cause of the original problem is not identified. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the anomaly and hope it resolves itself. This is a severe dereliction of duty and a direct violation of professional responsibility. It demonstrates a failure to recognize the potential impact of communication system failures on public safety and law enforcement operations. This passive approach risks a catastrophic system failure at a critical moment, leading to potential harm to officers or the public, and significant legal liability for the agency and the dispatcher. It also fails to meet the proactive maintenance and reporting standards expected of a certified dispatcher. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role must adopt a systematic, protocol-driven approach to communication system issues. This involves 1. Immediate assessment of the impact on ongoing operations. 2. Following established incident response and troubleshooting procedures. 3. Prioritizing system isolation and diagnostic steps to prevent further issues. 4. Documenting all actions and observations meticulously. 5. Escalating the issue to appropriate technical personnel promptly. 6. Ensuring all actions comply with relevant regulations and agency policies regarding communication systems and data security. Question 7. Compliance review shows that during a recent incident, a dispatcher encountered a situation where the reporting party provided an address that was not immediately visible on the integrated mapping system. The dispatcher needs to ensure the responding officers have the most accurate location information. Which of the following actions best adheres to law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification requirements regarding mapping and GIS integration? Option A. Manually enter the address directly into the dispatch log and verbally relay it to the responding officers without attempting to update the GIS. Option B. Advise the reporting party to call back with more specific directions once they have a clearer understanding of their exact location. Option C. Utilize the GIS system's functionality to search for nearby known addresses or landmarks and provide that information to officers, while simultaneously initiating the process to add the new address to the GIS according to established protocols. Option D. Instruct the responding officers to use their own mobile mapping devices to locate the address once they are in the general vicinity. The correct answer is C. Utilize the GIS system's functionality to search for nearby known addresses or landmarks and provide that information to officers, while simultaneously initiating the process to add the new address to the GIS according to established protocols. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II to balance the immediate operational need for accurate location data with the long-term implications of data integrity and system compatibility within a regulated environment. The dispatcher must understand that while a quick, manual workaround might seem efficient in the moment, it could introduce errors, bypass established protocols, and potentially violate data management regulations or internal policies designed to ensure accuracy and security. The pressure of an active incident necessitates rapid decision-making, but this must be tempered by adherence to established procedures and an understanding of the underlying technology. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves utilizing the integrated GIS mapping system's established protocols for adding or verifying new addresses. This represents best professional practice because it ensures data consistency, accuracy, and auditability. By following the system's procedures, the dispatcher is contributing to a reliable database that can be used for future dispatches, resource allocation, and incident analysis. This aligns with regulatory frameworks that mandate accurate record-keeping and the use of approved systems for critical data. It upholds the principle of data integrity, which is paramount in law enforcement operations where misidentification or incorrect location can have severe consequences. Furthermore, it demonstrates an understanding of the system's design and the importance of maintaining its intended functionality. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves manually entering the address directly into the dispatch log without updating the GIS. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it creates a data discrepancy. The dispatch log and the official mapping system will then hold conflicting information, leading to potential confusion and errors in future dispatches. It bypasses the established data validation and integration processes, undermining the integrity of the GIS, which is a critical tool for operational efficiency and public safety. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on verbal confirmation from the reporting party without attempting to verify or add the address to the GIS. While verbal confirmation is necessary, failing to integrate this information into the official mapping system means the location data is transient and not permanently recorded for future use or analysis. This is a failure to maintain accurate and comprehensive records as required by law enforcement standards and can lead to repeated inefficiencies if the same location is involved in future incidents. A third incorrect approach is to instruct field units to figure it out on scene without providing them with the most accurate available location data or attempting to update the system. This abdicates the dispatcher's responsibility to provide critical situational awareness and support. It can lead to delays, increased risk to officers and the public, and is a failure to leverage the technological resources available to enhance operational effectiveness, potentially violating guidelines related to resource management and officer safety. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established protocols and the integrity of critical data systems. When faced with a new or unmapped location during an incident, the process should involve 1. Acknowledging the immediate need for accurate location information. 2. Attempting to utilize the integrated GIS system's functionality for adding or verifying addresses, following documented procedures. 3. If system limitations are encountered, escalating the issue through appropriate channels for system correction or data input, rather than creating manual workarounds that compromise data integrity. 4. Ensuring all actions are logged and auditable. This systematic approach ensures that immediate operational needs are met, while simultaneously upholding regulatory compliance, and maintaining the reliability of essential law enforcement tools. Question 8. Examination of the data shows that the primary wireless communication system for the agency has experienced intermittent signal degradation in a newly developed suburban area and has also flagged potential vulnerabilities in its encryption protocols. Which of the following approaches best addresses these findings from a risk assessment perspective, adhering to law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification standards? Option A. Immediately implement a comprehensive, multifaceted risk assessment to identify specific causes of signal degradation and encryption vulnerabilities, develop contingency communication plans, and recommend system upgrades or procedural changes based on findings. Option B. Document the signal degradation and encryption concerns in the system log and await a scheduled maintenance check to address them, assuming they are minor issues. Option C. Request immediate budget allocation for a complete system overhaul, without first conducting a detailed analysis of the specific issues or exploring less costly mitigation strategies. Option D. Focus solely on the encryption vulnerabilities, as data security is paramount, and defer addressing the signal degradation until it becomes a more significant operational problem. Correct answer is A. Immediately implement a comprehensive, multifaceted risk assessment to identify specific causes of signal degradation and encryption vulnerabilities, develop contingency communication plans, and recommend system upgrades or procedural changes based on findings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of wireless communication systems in law enforcement dispatch. Potential for system failure, interference, or unauthorized access directly impacts officer safety, response times, and the overall effectiveness of emergency services. A dispatcher must exercise careful judgment to identify and mitigate risks associated with these systems, understanding that their decisions can have life-or-death consequences. The complexity arises from the need to balance operational efficiency with robust security and reliability, all within a strictly regulated environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and systematic risk assessment of the wireless communication system. This aligns with the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification framework's emphasis on operational readiness and adherence to established protocols for maintaining critical infrastructure. By identifying potential vulnerabilities, such as signal degradation in specific geographic areas or the risk of jamming, and developing contingency plans, the dispatcher ensures continuity of service. This approach is best professional practice because it directly addresses the regulatory requirement to maintain reliable communication channels, as mandated by insert relevant U.S. federal or state law/regulation, e.g., FCC Part 90 Rules for Public Safety Radio Services, or specific state-level public safety communication standards. Prioritizes the safety of officers and the public by anticipating and mitigating potential disruptions before they occur, thereby upholding ethical obligations to provide effective emergency response. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely rely on routine system checks without actively seeking out potential vulnerabilities or considering external factors. This fails to meet the regulatory expectation for a comprehensive risk assessment, as it is reactive rather than proactive, may overlook emerging threats or environmental changes that could compromise communication, leading to a violation of the duty to ensure reliable service. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize cost-saving measures over system redundancy or security enhancements. While fiscal responsibility is important, compromising the integrity of a critical communication system for financial reasons is a direct regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the principle of ensuring adequate resources for public safety operations and could lead to a breach of communication protocols designed to protect sensitive information and ensure operational continuity. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss user-reported issues with the wireless system as minor inconveniences without thorough investigation. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to adhere to protocols for reporting and resolving technical problems. It can lead to the escalation of minor issues into major system failures, potentially jeopardizing officer safety and violating the dispatcher's responsibility to maintain a functional communication network. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a structured risk management framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential hazards, e.g., Signal dead zones, equipment malfunction, cyber threats. 2. Analyzing the likelihood and impact of each hazard. 3. Evaluating existing controls and their effectiveness. 4. Developing and implementing mitigation strategies, e.g., alternative communication methods, regular system audits, training on emergency protocols. 5. Continuously monitoring and reviewing the effectiveness of these strategies. This systematic process ensures that decisions are data-driven, compliant with regulations, and ethically sound, prioritizing the safety and well-being of the public and law enforcement personnel. Question 9. Performance analysis shows that dispatchers are sometimes faced with multiple calls simultaneously. In one instance, a dispatcher receives a call reporting shots fired at a park, with the caller stating they saw someone with a gun. Almost simultaneously, another call comes in reporting a residential burglary in progress in a quiet neighborhood. Both calls are within the dispatcher's jurisdiction. Which of the following actions best reflects the prioritization of calls based on severity according to Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification standards? Option A. Dispatching a single patrol unit to the park for the shots fired incident while sending multiple units to the residential burglary. Option B. Attempting to gather more detailed suspect information for the burglary before dispatching any units. Option C. Dispatching units to the residential burglary first, as it is a property crime that requires immediate attention. Option D. Immediately dispatching patrol units to the park for the shots fired incident, and then dispatching units to the residential burglary. The correct answer is D. Immediately dispatching patrol units to the park for the shots fired incident, and then dispatching units to the residential burglary. Explanation. This scenario presents a common yet critical ethical dilemma for law enforcement dispatchers, balancing immediate, high-priority threats with ongoing, less immediately life-threatening situations. The challenge lies in the dispatcher's sole responsibility to assess and prioritize incoming calls based on limited information, often under extreme pressure. This requires not only adherence to established protocols, but also sound judgment and an understanding of the potential consequences of misprioritization. The correct approach prioritizes the active, violent crime in progress over the potential for future harm. This aligns with the fundamental principle of law enforcement dispatch, which is to allocate resources to situations posing the most immediate and severe threat to life and public safety. Regulatory frameworks and departmental guidelines for law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification universally emphasize this principle. Dispatchers are trained to identify keywords and indicators of escalating violence, such as shots fired, assault in progress, or hostage situation, and to immediately dispatch appropriate units. This ensures that the most critical incidents receive the fastest possible response, thereby potentially saving lives and apprehending suspects. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize the reported burglary over the active shooting. This fails to recognize the immediate and escalating danger to life presented by the active shooting. Ethically and regulatorily, this constitutes a failure to uphold the primary duty of protecting life. Dispatching resources to a property crime while a violent felony is actively occurring could lead to severe injury or death to victims and officers, and allow the perpetrator of the violent crime to escape. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt to gather extensive details about both incidents before dispatching, delaying response to the active shooting. This violates the principle of rapid response for high-priority calls and could be attributed to a lack of decisiveness or an over-reliance on information gathering at the expense of immediate action, which is a regulatory failure in emergency dispatch. Finally, dispatching only a single unit to the active shooting while sending multiple units to the burglary would be a gross misallocation of resources, demonstrating a fundamental misunderstanding of threat assessment and prioritization, and a direct violation of emergency response protocols. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a rapid, multi-step assessment. 1. Identify the nature of the call. Is it a crime in progress? What type of crime? 2. Assess the immediate threat to life and safety. Are weapons involved? Is there active violence? 3. Consult established priority protocols. What are the departmental guidelines for prioritizing different types of incidents? 4. Make a decisive dispatch. Allocate the appropriate number and type of units based on the assessed threat and protocols. 5. Maintain communication. Keep the reporting party informed and gather further critical details if possible without compromising response time. Question 10. The efficiency study reveals that during a period of high call volume with simultaneous reports of a vehicle accident with injuries, a residential fire alarm, and a reported shoplifting incident, the dispatcher's actions significantly impacted response times. Which of the following dispatching approaches best aligns with Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification, best practices for managing multiple incident types? Option A. Prioritizing the vehicle accident with injuries, then dispatching fire and EMS to that incident, followed by dispatching law enforcement to the shoplifting incident, and finally dispatching fire services to the residential fire alarm after confirming it is not a false alarm. Option B. Dispatching fire and EMS to the residential fire alarm first, then law enforcement to the shoplifting incident, and finally addressing the vehicle accident with injuries. Option C. Immediately dispatching law enforcement to the shoplifting incident as it is a direct law enforcement call, followed by the vehicle accident, and then the fire alarm. Option D. Dispatching the first available unit to each incident in the order the calls were received to ensure equitable distribution of resources. Correct answer is C. Immediately dispatching law enforcement to the shoplifting incident as it is a direct law enforcement call, followed by the vehicle accident, and then the fire alarm. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical need for accurate and timely dispatch of resources during a multifaceted emergency. The dispatcher must simultaneously manage incoming information, assess the severity and nature of each incident, and prioritize the allocation of limited law enforcement, fire, and EMS units. Failure to correctly categorize and prioritize can lead to delayed response times, potentially exacerbating the situation and jeopardizing public safety, which directly contravenes the core mandate of law enforcement dispatching as outlined in the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification framework. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and information-driven response. By first confirming the nature of the incident and the immediate threat level, the dispatcher ensures that the most critical needs are addressed first. This aligns with established protocols for emergency dispatch, emphasizing the principle of first, do no harm, by ensuring that life-threatening situations receive immediate attention. The subsequent steps of gathering essential details and dispatching appropriate units based on established response matrices are crucial for efficient resource management and effective incident resolution, as mandated by the certification guidelines. An incorrect approach that involves dispatching units based solely on the order of incoming calls fails to account for the varying levels of urgency and resource requirement across different incident types. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure because it can lead to a situation where a minor law enforcement call receives immediate attention while a critical medical emergency is delayed, directly violating the duty to protect life and property. Another incorrect approach, such as dispatching the first available unit regardless of specialization, is also professionally unacceptable. This overlooks the specific training and equipment required for different incident types, e.g., a fire engine for a structure fire, an ambulance for a medical emergency. Such a failure can result in an ineffective or even dangerous response, contravening the principles of competent emergency management and the specific operational guidelines for dispatchers. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and information gathering. This involves asking clarifying questions to accurately ascertain the incident type, location, and immediate threats. Following this, a rapid assessment of urgency and resource needs should be conducted, referencing established protocols and response matrices. The dispatcher must then prioritize dispatch based on these assessments, ensuring that the most critical incidents receive the earliest and most appropriate response. Continuous communication and coordination with responding units and other agencies are also vital components of this process. Question 11. Analysis of the process for handling an incoming multimedia messaging service, MMS. Containing what appears to be photographic evidence of a crime in progress, what is the most appropriate initial procedural step for a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II to ensure both operational efficiency and regulatory compliance? Option A. Save the MMS to a personal mobile device for later review and potential forwarding, if deemed important after the immediate incident has concluded. Option B. Forward the MMS to all available patrol units without delay to ensure rapid situational awareness for all responding officers. Option C. Disregard the MMS as an informal communication method and focus solely on voice-based dispatch instructions. Option D. Immediately verify the sender's identity and the authenticity of the MMS content through established secure channels before disseminating any information or taking further action. The correct answer is D. Immediately verify the sender's identity and the authenticity of the MMS content through established secure channels before disseminating any information or taking further action. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II to balance the immediate need for information with the strict protocols governing the use of multimedia messaging services, MMS, for official law enforcement purposes. The dispatcher must quickly assess the nature of the incoming MMS, determine its relevance and evidentiary value, and decide on the appropriate course of action without compromising the integrity of the communication or violating established procedures. The potential for misinterpretation, mishandling of sensitive data, or failure to adhere to chain of custody principles adds layers of complexity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic process of verification, documentation, and secure handling. This aligns with best professional practices by ensuring that all incoming multimedia evidence is treated with the seriousness it deserves. Verification confirms the authenticity and source of the MMS, preventing the introduction of fabricated or misleading information into an investigation. Proper documentation, including timestamps, sender information, and content description, is crucial for maintaining an accurate record and supporting potential legal proceedings. Secure handling ensures that the MMS is stored and transmitted in a manner that preserves its integrity and complies with data privacy regulations and evidence handling protocols. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of evidence tampering, unauthorized access, and procedural errors, thereby upholding the highest standards of law enforcement operations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately forwarding the MMS to all responding units without prior verification or assessment. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it bypasses essential security and verification steps. It risks disseminating unverified or potentially irrelevant information, which can lead to confusion, misallocation of resources, and compromise of an ongoing investigation. Furthermore, it may violate protocols regarding the secure handling of digital evidence, potentially exposing sensitive information prematurely. Another incorrect approach is to disregard the MMS entirely due to its format, assuming it is not a valid form of communication for law enforcement. This is a significant professional failure, as it demonstrates a lack of adaptability and understanding of evolving communication technologies. Law enforcement agencies increasingly utilize MMS for critical information sharing, and dismissing it outright could mean missing vital evidence or failing to respond to a genuine emergency. This approach neglects the potential evidentiary value and operational utility of MMS. A third incorrect approach is to store the MMS on a personal device for later review. This is a severe breach of security and regulatory compliance. It compromises the chain of custody, introduces significant risks of data loss or unauthorized access, and violates policies designed to protect sensitive law enforcement information. Personal devices are not secure repositories for official evidence, and this action would likely render the MMS inadmissible in court and subject the dispatcher to disciplinary action. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes verification, adherence to policy, and secure handling of all incoming information, regardless of its format. This involves a critical assessment of the information's source, content, and potential relevance to an ongoing incident or investigation. When dealing with new or evolving communication methods like MMS, dispatchers must consult and strictly follow established agency protocols and relevant legal guidelines. If protocols are unclear, seeking immediate clarification from a supervisor or designated authority is paramount. The overarching principle is to treat all incoming data as potentially critical until proven otherwise, while simultaneously safeguarding its integrity and confidentiality. Question 12. Strategic planning requires a law enforcement dispatcher to effectively manage incoming emergency calls. An officer on scene reports a structure fire with visible smoke and flames and states there are reports of individuals possibly trapped inside. The officer requests immediate fire department response. What is the dispatcher's absolute priority in this situation? Option A. Wait for the officer to provide a complete scene assessment before contacting the fire department. Option B. Advise the officer to coordinate directly with the fire department for resource requests. Option C. Immediately relay all pertinent information to the fire department dispatch to initiate their response. Option D. Attempt to gather more details about the individuals possibly trapped before notifying the fire department. The correct answer is C. Immediately relay all pertinent information to the fire department dispatch to initiate their response. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the dispatcher to rapidly assess a complex, evolving situation involving multiple agencies and potential hazards, while adhering to strict communication protocols and prioritizing critical information. The dispatcher must balance the urgency of the situation with the need for accurate and concise reporting to ensure appropriate resources are dispatched and all parties are informed. Failure to do so could lead to delayed response, misallocation of resources, or endangerment of responders and the public. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing the immediate safety of the public and responders through the accurate and timely relay of critical information to the appropriate fire department dispatch. This aligns with law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification standards that emphasize clear, concise, and accurate communication, especially in emergency situations. The protocol followed ensures that the fire department receives all necessary details to initiate their response effectively, including the nature of the incident, location, and any immediate hazards observed by the reporting officer. This adherence to established protocols minimizes confusion and maximizes the efficiency of emergency services. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to delay relaying the information to the fire department until a full scene assessment is complete. This fails to meet the urgency required for fire incidents, potentially delaying critical response and violating protocols that mandate immediate notification of relevant agencies. It also assumes the law enforcement officer has the capacity to conduct a full scene assessment while simultaneously managing the immediate situation, which may not be the case. Another incorrect approach would be to provide incomplete or vague information to the fire department. This could lead to the dispatch of incorrect resources or a delayed understanding of the severity of the situation, compromising the effectiveness of the fire response and potentially putting lives at risk. It demonstrates a failure to adhere to the principle of accurate and comprehensive reporting essential for emergency dispatch. A third incorrect approach would be to attempt to direct the fire department's response from the law enforcement dispatch center without direct communication with the fire dispatch. This oversteps the dispatcher's role and bypasses established interagency communication channels, potentially causing confusion and hindering the fire department's operational autonomy and expertise. It also fails to leverage the specialized knowledge and protocols of the fire dispatch center. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes immediate threat assessment, adherence to established protocols, and clear, concise communication. This involves understanding the critical nature of fire incidents, the importance of timely notification to specialized agencies, and the necessity of providing accurate and complete information. When faced with such a scenario, the dispatcher must act decisively, following the established chain of communication and ensuring all essential details are relayed without delay. Question 13. Cost-benefit analysis shows that upgrading the computer-aided dispatch (CAD) system offers significant potential for improved response times and enhanced officer safety. Which of the following approaches best represents a professional and effective evaluation of this upgrade? Option A. Focusing the evaluation on a comprehensive assessment of the CAD system's ability to streamline critical incident management, improve data accuracy and accessibility for field units, and enhance overall dispatch efficiency, supported by user feedback and pilot testing. Option B. Selecting the CAD system that offers the widest array of advanced, cutting-edge features, regardless of their direct applicability to current dispatch protocols or proven operational impact. Option C. Prioritizing the CAD system that demonstrates the most substantial reduction in initial purchase price, assuming all systems meet basic functional requirements. Option D. Opting for the CAD system that has been most frequently recommended by vendors based on their marketing materials, without conducting independent verification or user trials. The correct answer is C. Prioritizing the CAD system that demonstrates the most substantial reduction in initial purchase price, assuming all systems meet basic functional requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in law enforcement dispatch, where the integration of new technology, specifically a computer-aided dispatch (CAD) system upgrade, requires careful consideration of its impact on operational efficiency and resource allocation. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of advanced features against the costs and the disruption to established workflows. A dispatcher's judgment is crucial in evaluating these trade-offs to ensure that technology adoption enhances, rather than hinders, public safety response. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive evaluation that considers not only the financial implications, but also the tangible improvements in dispatch efficiency, officer safety, and data accuracy. This aligns with the overarching goal of law enforcement dispatch to provide timely and effective support to field units and the public. Regulatory frameworks for law enforcement technology often emphasize accountability, effectiveness, and the responsible use of public funds, all of which are addressed by a thorough best practice evaluation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on initial cost savings without considering long-term operational benefits or potential hidden costs, like training or integration issues, fails to meet the standard of responsible resource management. This could lead to a system that is cheaper upfront but ultimately less effective, potentially compromising response times or data integrity, which are critical for officer safety and successful investigations. Ethically, this approach neglects the duty to provide the best possible service to the community. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes features with minimal impact on core dispatch functions, despite their perceived novelty, overlooks the primary objective of a CAD system upgrade: to improve critical incident management. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the essential needs of a dispatch center and could result in wasted investment on non-essential functionalities, diverting resources from more impactful improvements. This is a failure in professional judgment and resource allocation. A third incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or the preferences of a few individuals without systematic data collection or user feedback fails to establish a sound basis for decision-making. This can lead to the adoption of a system that does not meet the diverse needs of the dispatch team or the specific operational demands of the agency. It represents a departure from evidence-based decision-making and a potential ethical lapse in ensuring equitable and effective technology deployment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve forming a multidisciplinary evaluation team, defining clear objectives for the CAD upgrade, gathering data on current performance and identified needs, researching potential solutions thoroughly, conducting pilot programs or demonstrations, and obtaining feedback from all relevant stakeholders before making a final recommendation or decision. This systematic approach ensures that technology investments are aligned with operational goals and regulatory requirements. Question 14. Research into dispatching procedures for law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification reveals that optimizing information flow is paramount. When a dispatcher receives a call reporting a suspect fleeing a scene with a visible weapon, and simultaneously receives a separate radio transmission from a patrol unit requesting routine status update, which dispatching procedure best optimizes the process for officer safety and efficient response? Option A. Relay the information about the suspect with the weapon to the closest units, then ask the patrol unit to hold their status update until the critical information is disseminated. Option B. Immediately relay the information about the suspect with the weapon to all available units, then acknowledge the patrol unit's status update request. Option C. Acknowledge the patrol unit's status update request first, then relay the information about the suspect with the weapon to all available units. Option D. Relay the information about the suspect with the weapon to all available units, then ask the patrol unit to repeat their status update request after the critical information has been broadcast. The correct answer is B. Immediately relay the information about the suspect with the weapon to all available units, then acknowledge the patrol unit's status update request. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a dispatcher to balance the immediate need for information with the critical requirement of maintaining situational awareness and ensuring officer safety. The dispatcher must quickly assess the urgency of the incoming information and determine the most efficient and effective way to relay it without compromising the flow of essential communication or creating confusion. The potential for misinterpretation or delayed critical information highlights the need for precise and optimized dispatching procedures. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the immediate safety of responding officers and the public by relaying the most critical, actionable information first. This aligns with the fundamental principles of emergency dispatching, which emphasize clear, concise, and timely communication of life safety information. By confirming receipt and understanding, the dispatcher ensures that the officers have the necessary details to respond appropriately and safely, adhering to established protocols for information dissemination in high-stress situations. This method minimizes the risk of critical details being missed or misunderstood, thereby enhancing operational effectiveness and officer safety. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach fails by delaying the relay of critical safety information to engage in a lengthy, non-essential conversation. This directly violates the principle of prioritizing life safety information and can lead to officers entering a dangerous situation without full awareness of potential threats, creating an unacceptable risk to their well-being and the public. It demonstrates a failure to adhere to established protocols for urgent communications. Another incorrect approach is to transmit all information in a single, unprioritized block. This can overwhelm the receiving officers, leading to missed critical details or confusion, especially in a dynamic situation. It is inefficient and increases the likelihood of miscommunication, which is a direct contravention of best practices for clear and effective dispatching, potentially compromising officer safety and response effectiveness. A third incorrect approach involves assuming the officers have understood all information without confirmation. This bypasses a crucial step in the communication loop, leaving room for error and misunderstanding. It neglects the dispatcher's responsibility to ensure comprehension, which is vital for accurate and safe execution of duties by the responding units. This failure to confirm understanding is a significant procedural and ethical lapse. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with an immediate assessment of the incoming information's urgency and potential impact on officer safety and public welfare. This involves categorizing information based on its criticality. The next step is to select the most efficient and clear method of transmission, prioritizing actionable intelligence. Finally, a confirmation of understanding from the receiving party is essential to close the communication loop and ensure accuracy. This systematic approach, grounded in established dispatch protocols, ensures that critical information is conveyed effectively and safely. Question 15. Compliance review shows that a law enforcement agency is experiencing intermittent communication issues with patrol units operating in both a dense urban core and surrounding rural areas. The agency utilizes both VHF and UHF two-way radio systems. Considering the typical propagation characteristics and regulatory guidelines for law enforcement radio systems, which approach best addresses the agency's communication challenges? Option A. Recommend that all units use their assigned radio system regardless of location, as the agency has invested in both VHF and UHF, implying they are interchangeable for all operational needs. Option B. Suggest that the agency upgrade all units to an 800 MHz system, as it offers superior performance in all environments and eliminates the need to differentiate between VHF and UHF. Option C. Advise dispatchers to prioritize UHF for urban patrols due to its better penetration of urban structures, and VHF for rural patrols to maximize coverage over open terrain, ensuring optimal system selection based on operational environment. Option D. Recommend the primary use of VHF for all patrol units due to its generally longer range, ensuring consistent contact across both urban and rural environments. The correct answer is D. Recommend the primary use of VHF for all patrol units due to its generally longer range, ensuring consistent contact across both urban and rural environments. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of reliable communication for law enforcement operations. Dispatchers must understand the fundamental differences between radio frequencies to ensure effective and compliant communication, especially when considering the potential for interference, range limitations, and the specific operational needs of different units. The choice of radio system directly impacts response times, officer safety, and the ability to coordinate effectively during critical incidents. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by recognizing the distinct characteristics and optimal use cases of VHF and UHF radio systems within the specified regulatory framework for law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification. VHF systems, with their longer wavelengths, are generally better suited for longer-range communication and can penetrate obstacles like foliage more effectively, making them suitable for patrol units covering wider geographical areas or operating in more rural environments. UHF systems with shorter wavelengths offer better clarity and are less susceptible to certain types of interference, making them advantageous in urban environments with numerous buildings that can reflect radio waves, or for specialized units requiring clearer, more localized communication. Understanding these distinctions allows dispatchers to advise on or select the most appropriate system for a given situation, ensuring operational efficiency and adherence to communication protocols designed to maximize signal integrity and coverage. Incorrect approaches fail to grasp these fundamental distinctions, leading to potential communication breakdowns and regulatory noncompliance. One incorrect approach might advocate for using a VHF system in a dense urban environment, where UHF would offer superior penetration and clarity, potentially leading to garbled transmissions and missed critical information, thereby violating guidelines that emphasize clear and reliable communication for officer safety. Another incorrect approach might suggest using a UHF system for long-range rural patrols, where its shorter range and susceptibility to terrain-based obstructions could result in lost contact with officers, compromising response capabilities and potentially violating protocols for maintaining contact with all deployed units. A third incorrect approach might fail to consider the specific frequency band suitability for the task, treating all two-way radio systems as interchangeable, which ignores the technical specifications and regulatory guidance that dictate their appropriate application, leading to inefficient resource allocation and compromised operational effectiveness. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a thorough understanding of the technical capabilities and limitations of different radio systems, coupled with knowledge of the operational environment and the specific requirements of the law enforcement agency. Dispatchers must consult relevant operational manuals and regulatory guidelines to ensure that communication strategies align with established best practices and legal mandates, prioritizing clear, reliable, and secure communication channels at all times. Question 16. Compliance review shows that during a call reporting a disturbance at a park, a dispatcher proceeded with dispatching a standard patrol unit without further questioning. What is the most appropriate next step for the dispatcher to ensure the accurate determination of the emergency's nature? Option A. Ask the caller to describe the specific type of disturbance, such as noise complaint or argument. Option B. Ask the caller if anyone is injured or if there are any weapons involved. Option C. Inform the caller that a patrol unit is en route and advise them to stay on the line. Option D. Immediately upgrade the response to a supervisor and multiple units due to the potential for escalation. The correct answer is B. Ask the caller if anyone is injured or if there are any weapons involved. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the dispatcher must rapidly assess a caller's description of an event that could be a minor disturbance or a life-threatening emergency, all while under pressure and with limited information. The core challenge lies in accurately categorizing the incident to ensure the appropriate level of response is dispatched, thereby protecting public safety and optimizing resource allocation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes gathering critical details from the caller to accurately determine the nature and severity of the emergency. This aligns with law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification standards that emphasize the dispatcher's role as the crucial first point of contact in emergency response, responsible for eliciting sufficient information to make informed decisions. By asking clarifying questions about the presence of weapons, the number of individuals involved, and the immediate danger, the dispatcher is actively working to establish the true nature of the threat, adhering to protocols that mandate a thorough assessment before dispatching resources. This proactive information gathering minimizes the risk of under-dispatching critical incidents or over-dispatching minor ones, ensuring efficient and effective public safety services. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the caller's initial statement without further inquiry fails to meet the professional standard of due diligence. This could lead to a misclassification of the emergency, potentially resulting in delayed or insufficient response to a serious situation, which is a direct violation of the dispatcher's duty of care and public safety mandate. Another incorrect approach that involves immediately dispatching the highest level of response based on a vague description, without attempting to clarify the situation, is inefficient and can deplete valuable resources that may be needed for genuine high-priority calls. This demonstrates a lack of critical assessment and adherence to protocols that require a reasoned determination of the emergency's nature. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and immediate acknowledgement of the caller. This is followed by a structured questioning process designed to elicit key information points relevant to the type and severity of the incident. This process should be guided by established protocols and training, focusing on identifying immediate threats to life or property, the presence of weapons, the number of individuals involved, and the specific actions being taken by the parties involved. The dispatcher must then synthesize this information to categorize the emergency and select the appropriate response level, always erring on the side of caution when there is ambiguity regarding potential danger. Question 17. Which approach would be most effective for a law enforcement dispatcher? II. To coordinate the response of multiple agencies to a large-scale incident that spans across several jurisdictions, ensuring seamless communication and unified command. Option A. Prioritize dispatching units from the dispatcher's own agency first, then contact other agencies to inform them of the situation and await their independent response. Option B. Dispatch units from all involved agencies simultaneously and instruct each agency to establish their own communication channels and incident command structures independently. Option C. Identify the primary jurisdiction or agency that will take the lead in the incident and establish a direct communication link with their incident commander, coordinating all other agency responses through that lead. Option D. Immediately dispatch units from all involved agencies and establish a primary communication channel through the dispatcher, relaying information as it is received from each agency. The correct answer is D. Immediately dispatch units from all involved agencies and establish a primary communication channel through the dispatcher, relaying information as it is received from each agency. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging due to the inherent complexities of coordinating emergency responses across multiple independent law enforcement agencies, each with its own protocols, communication systems, and operational priorities. Effective coordination is paramount to ensure a unified and efficient response, prevent conflicting actions, and maximize officer and public safety. The dispatcher's role is critical in bridging these jurisdictional gaps. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes establishing a clear, unified command structure and utilizing standardized communication protocols. This aligns with the principles of incident command systems, ICS, often mandated or recommended by law enforcement training and operational guidelines, which emphasize clear lines of authority and communication for effective multi-agency operations. By confirming the lead agency and establishing a primary point of contact, the dispatcher ensures that information flows logically and that decisions are made with a comprehensive understanding of the overall situation, thereby adhering to best practices for interagency cooperation and resource management. An incorrect approach that involves dispatching units from multiple agencies without a clear lead agency or established communication channel creates significant risks. This can lead to duplicated efforts, wasted resources, conflicting tactical decisions, and potentially endanger responding officers and the public. It fails to adhere to the fundamental principles of coordinated emergency response and can violate departmental policies or interagency agreements that dictate how such situations should be managed. Another incorrect approach, such as relaying information piecemeal between agencies without a central coordination point, introduces delays and increases the likelihood of miscommunication or incomplete information transfer. This can result in critical details being missed, leading to delayed or inappropriate responses. It undermines the efficiency and effectiveness of the multi-agency effort and deviates from established protocols for information dissemination in complex incidents. A further incorrect approach, such as assuming one agency has automatic authority over another without explicit confirmation, can lead to interagency friction and operational breakdowns. This can stem from a lack of understanding of established interagency protocols or a failure to follow proper procedures for establishing command and control in a multi-jurisdictional incident. It demonstrates a lack of professional judgment in navigating the complexities of interagency cooperation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations requires dispatchers to first identify the nature and scope of the incident, determine which agencies are involved or likely to be involved, and then actively work to establish a unified command structure. This involves identifying the lead agency, confirming communication channels, and ensuring all responding units are operating under a coordinated plan. Dispatchers must be proficient in the principles of incident command and possess a thorough understanding of local interagency agreements and protocols. They should always seek to clarify roles and responsibilities and maintain clear, concise, and accurate communication throughout the incident. Question 18. The review process indicates that a dispatcher, upon receiving a call reporting a potential disturbance involving a firearm, immediately dispatched units without confirming the caller's location or verifying the presence of a weapon, relying on the caller's agitated tone as sufficient evidence of immediate danger. Which approach to risk assessment best aligns with the legal framework for a law enforcement dispatcher Roman II certification? Option A. Conducting a brief, structured risk assessment to gather critical details such as caller verification, specific location, and nature of the threat before dispatching, while simultaneously relaying information to responding units. Option B. Prioritizing immediate unit dispatch based on the caller's perceived urgency and emotional state to ensure the fastest possible response. Option C. Dispatching units with a possible weapon advisory and instructing them to proceed with extreme caution, assuming the caller's report is accurate. Option D. Waiting for a secondary confirmation from another source before dispatching any units to avoid overreacting to a potentially false alarm. The correct answer is B. Prioritizing immediate unit dispatch based on the caller's perceived urgency and emotional state to ensure the fastest possible response. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to assess the dispatcher's approach to a situation involving a potential legal liability. This scenario is professionally challenging because dispatchers operate at the critical intersection of public safety and legal compliance. Their actions and decisions can have significant consequences, both for the public and for the agency. A dispatcher must balance the urgency of emergency response with the meticulous adherence to established protocols and legal frameworks. The risk assessment approach is crucial here, as it requires the dispatcher to proactively identify potential legal pitfalls and mitigate them through informed decision-making. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic evaluation of the situation against established legal and procedural guidelines. This involves considering the totality of the circumstances, the information available, and the potential legal ramifications of each action or inaction. By focusing on risk assessment, the dispatcher demonstrates an understanding of their duty of care and the importance of operating within the defined legal parameters of their role. This proactive stance helps prevent errors that could lead to civil liability or departmental sanctions, ensuring that the dispatcher acts in a manner consistent with the Law Enforcement Dispatcher Roman II certification standards. An incorrect approach that fails to conduct a thorough risk assessment would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, relying solely on instinct or past experience without a structured evaluation of the current situation's legal implications is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This can lead to overlooking critical details that might trigger specific legal obligations or protections. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of response over accuracy and adherence to protocol, potentially leading to the dissemination of incorrect information or the failure to gather necessary details, both of which can create legal exposure. Furthermore, an approach that ignores or downplays potential legal risks, assuming that it will probably be fine, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the professional standards expected of a certified dispatcher. Such an approach violates the core principles of responsible dispatching, which mandate a commitment to accuracy, legality, and the protection of both the public and the agency. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the incident's nature and the available information. This should be followed by a rapid, yet thorough, assessment of potential legal implications, referencing established protocols and legal guidelines. The dispatcher should then consider the range of possible actions, evaluating each for its effectiveness, adherence to policy, and legal soundness. The chosen course of action should be the one that best balances the immediate need for response with the long-term imperative of legal compliance and risk mitigation. Continuous training and awareness of relevant legal updates are also vital components of this professional reasoning process. Question 19. The analysis reveals that a citizen has posted a detailed account of a crime they witnessed on a public social media platform, including specific descriptions of the suspect and vehicle. As a law enforcement dispatcher, Roman 2, what is the most appropriate initial action to take regarding this social media post? Option A. Direct the citizen to contact the department's non-emergency line or the appropriate investigative unit to provide their statement through official channels. Option B. Ignore the social media post as it is not an official report and does not require immediate dispatcher action. Option C. Share the citizen's social media post on the department's official social media page to solicit further tips from the public. Option D. Immediately respond to the social media post, asking for further details about the crime and the suspect. The correct answer is A. Direct the citizen to contact the department's non-emergency line or the appropriate investigative unit to provide their statement through official channels. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a law enforcement dispatcher, Roman 2, to balance the immediate need for information with the critical importance of adhering to established protocols for social media interaction. The dispatcher must understand that while social media can be a valuable tool for gathering intelligence and disseminating information, it is not a substitute for official communication channels and requires strict adherence to departmental policies and legal guidelines to maintain data integrity, privacy, and operational security. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes official, verified information dissemination and data collection through established channels. This aligns with the regulatory framework for law enforcement communication, which emphasizes accuracy, reliability, and authorized dissemination. By directing the citizen to the official channels, the dispatcher ensures that the information is properly documented, vetted, and handled according to departmental policy, thereby maintaining the integrity of the investigation and protecting sensitive information. This also avoids potential legal ramifications associated with unauthorized disclosure or misinterpretation of information obtained through informal social media interactions. An incorrect approach that involves directly engaging with the citizen on social media to gather details about the crime would be a regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to the introduction of unverified or inaccurate information into the official record, potentially compromising the investigation. Furthermore, it bypasses established protocols for evidence handling and witness interviews, which are designed to ensure the admissibility and reliability of information. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the social media post entirely, would be an ethical failure to potentially gather critical information that could aid in public safety or an ongoing investigation, and a failure to follow departmental guidelines that may mandate monitoring of public social media for relevant information. A third incorrect approach, which is to immediately share the citizen's social media post on official departmental channels without verification, represents a significant privacy violation and a failure to adhere to protocols for verifying information before public dissemination, potentially jeopardizing the safety of individuals involved or the integrity of an investigation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the nature of the incoming information, e.g., potential crime report, public inquiry. They must then consult departmental policy and relevant legal guidelines regarding social media interaction and information handling. The next step is to assess the urgency and nature of the information to determine the most appropriate and secure method of response or information gathering. This involves prioritizing official communication channels and protocols over informal or unverified methods, ensuring all actions are documented, and maintaining the chain of custody for any information obtained. Question 20. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in transmission delays and a higher than acceptable rate of busy signals during peak operational hours, suggesting current radio communication infrastructure is struggling to keep pace with demand. considering the need for reliable, efficient, and scalable communication for law enforcement operations. Which radio system approach would best address these observed performance issues and align with best practices for public safety communications? Option A. Expand the existing simplex radio system by adding more dedicated frequencies, assuming more channels will resolve congestion. Option B. Upgrade to a conventional duplex system with more dedicated channels, as it allows for simultaneous transmission and reception. Option C. Prioritize the lowest initial cost option for a new radio system, as budget constraints are a primary concern. Option D. Implement a trunked radio system that dynamically allocates channels based on real-time demand, maximizing frequency utilization and supporting advanced features. The correct answer is D. Implement a trunked radio system that dynamically allocates channels based on real-time demand, maximizing frequency utilization and supporting advanced features. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for law enforcement dispatchers. Roman 2. Balancing the immediate need for communication with the long-term implications of system choice. The performance metrics indicate a potential bottleneck or inefficiency, requiring a dispatcher to understand the fundamental differences between radio system types and their impact on operational effectiveness and resource allocation. The challenge lies in selecting the most appropriate system based on current needs and future scalability, while adhering to departmental policies and regulatory guidelines for public safety communications. Correct approach analysis. Selecting a trunked radio system represents best professional practice because it offers the most efficient use of limited radio frequencies. Trunking dynamically allocates channels to users as needed, maximizing capacity and minimizing the likelihood of busy signals during peak demand. This directly addresses the performance metrics indicating potential congestion. Furthermore, trunk systems often support advanced features like priority access, emergency alerts, and data transmission, which are crucial for modern law enforcement operations and align with the evolving standards for public safety communications mandated by regulatory bodies overseeing emergency services. Adherence to these standards ensures interoperability and reliable communication, which are paramount for officer safety and effective incident response. Incorrect approaches analysis. Choosing a simplex system, while simple and cost-effective for basic communication, is fundamentally inadequate for a busy law enforcement agency. Simplex systems allow only one transmission at a time on a given frequency, meaning if one unit is transmitting, others cannot. This would exacerbate the performance issues indicated by the metrics and create critical communication delays during emergencies, directly violating the duty to ensure reliable and timely communication for officer safety, a core ethical and regulatory responsibility. Opting for a conventional duplex system, which allows simultaneous transmission and reception on separate frequencies, offers an improvement over simplex. However, it still relies on dedicated channels, which can become congested if the number of users or simultaneous transmissions exceeds the available channels. While better than simplex, it is less efficient than trunking in managing channel resources, especially for an agency experiencing performance issues. Failing to adopt a more efficient system like trunking, when performance metrics suggest a need, be seen as a failure to exercise due diligence in ensuring optimal operational capacity and could lead to communication failures, a breach of professional responsibility. Selecting a system based solely on initial cost without considering performance and scalability is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Public safety communication systems are critical infrastructure, and decisions must be based on operational effectiveness and long-term value, not just upfront expenditure. Regulatory frameworks for public safety communications emphasize reliability, interoperability, and capacity. A decision driven by cost alone, neglecting these critical factors, would likely lead to ongoing performance issues and potential noncompliance with communication standards, undermining the primary mission of law enforcement. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes operational needs, regulatory compliance, and future scalability. This involves 1. Thoroughly analyzing performance data to identify specific communication challenges. 2. Researching available technologies and their suitability for the identified challenges, considering factors like capacity, features, and cost-effectiveness over the system's lifecycle. 3. Consulting relevant departmental policies and national/regional regulatory guidelines for public safety communications. 4. Evaluating the long-term implications of each option, including maintenance, upgrades, and potential for expansion. 5. Making a recommendation or decision that demonstrably enhances operational effectiveness, ensures officer safety, and complies with all applicable laws and standards.